Okay, perfect. I think majority of everyone is here. So I wanted to start by saying thank you all for being here today at our Empowering Lessons from Women in STEM panel. Thank you for taking the time to hear from our great panelists that we have here today. So to go over a little bit about today's meeting and how it will work, so the event will start promptly in a few moments. We know that you may be at home, so we welcome your plants, pets, and partners on the screen if you have your video on. Any questions that you may have for our panelists, you can direct them to the chat box directly to Caitlin Friedman. So Katie is here in our chat right now. And all participants will be muted with the exception of our panelists in an effort to keep the discussion productive and organized. You have a choice to leave your camera on or off. We do love to see your smiling faces though, so please do so if you'd like. And in regards to our career readiness points for this specific event, Compass and Connect, you'll receive a survey link at the end of this discussion, and that will be kind of your ticket to your CRP points, and you'll when you complete that, we'll be able to give you those respective points. Now, to start our event, I'd like to go to our second slide, and Katie can take it away with the description.
Perfect. So students or alumni who are joining us, we're just trying to get a feel for who's with us today. So if you'll take a second and in the chat box, just tell us your academic school year, your major or intended major, and then one career field you've considered. So something you're thinking about. And then another housekeeping item I just want to mention while people are putting that in the chat is that we are recording the session. So if you're not comfortable being recorded, please leave your camera off because we are going to have this session recorded.
Thank you, Katie. And kind of to go with our introduction with our CDEV team, my name is Kiana Wiley. I am the graduate assistant for the career development.
My name is Katie Friedman. I'm the Assistant Director in the Career Development Center for the College of Arts and Sciences.
Hi everyone, I'm Estela, pronouns she, her, hers, and I work with the Career Readiness Program. So now,
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Estela.
No, I'm just waiting for students to start chatting their information. I'm really excited to just see who's here.
Yes. And some information about our panelists. We'll have them introduce themselves with their name and their current position right now. So Rochelle, you can take it away, and then we'll go in order of the photos.
Oh, you're muted.
Mute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I'm Rochelle Rodriguez. I'm an internal medicine physician. I've been a physician for 23 years now. Been part of very large organizations during my career, but I currently work for the VA Medical Center, and I'm one of their teaching faculty for the UCSD medical students and residents that rotate through internal medicine.
Perfect. Thank you, Rochelle.
You're welcome.
And Melanie?
Hi, I'm Melanie Thomas. I am currently, my official title is cybersecurity professional, but I am a tier 3 cybersecurity analyst and security engineer with AT&T Cybersecurity Services. It's an amazing, I love my job so much right now. I've been cybersecurity for just over 4 years. I've been information technology for over 10 now. It feels like forever. It also feels like nothing. But it's my official position. I just graduated with my master's in cybersecurity strategy and information management. I'm also on the board of directors for San Diego B-Sides. I'm the production editor for the Information Risk Management Book of Knowledge Guide. And then also working with some friends on some fun new cybersecurity related hacker boot camps here in the San Diego area.
Perfect. Thank you, Melanie. Great to have you here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Rodriguez. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and then I moved to North Carolina to do my undergrad in psychology at Elon University, and then I did my master's in higher education administration at NC State. And then I took a little bit of a turn. I became a technology recruiter here at a small boutique agency in San Diego. So a little bit of a more non-traditional tech career, but I love what I do now. I'm trying to actively get a little bit more involved with the San Diego area. I know somebody had mentioned psychology and higher education in the chat, so happy to talk about that as well as the side of technology that I'm in now.
Thank you, Claudia. And Ednalyn?
Hi everyone, my name is Ednalyn Bognat. Currently a software engineering manager at General Atomics Electromagnetic Systems. Actually graduated from USD, so I'm a fellow alum. Majored in computer science, took my career, stayed within software, and yeah, now I'm over here managing a group of software controls developers.
Perfect. Thank you for being here for our panel today. We're happy to have you all and hear all of your stories. We're going to get started today with our panel questions. So the first one goes out to Rochelle. So kind of what opportunities you found to help you achieve your goals, and how did you go about finding them?
So because I knew I wanted to be a physician, I actually have wanted to be a physician since I was 5 years old, but I was striving for that all along. And what I did was I figured if I want to be a physician and I'm going to do it for long term, I better experience what it's like to work in the healthcare system, because if I don't like it, that would be a bad choice, right? To have to go through medical school and then realize, oh, I don't want to do this. So what I did was I tried to find a part-time job while I was going to college at UCSD. And so I found a part-time job as a pharmacy clerk, working in a small primary care clinic. And that gave me experience of doing pharmacy work, even though that's not what I wanted to do eventually. But it exposed me to the environment that I was going to be with, the people that I would be working with, the people I would be serving. And so that to me was an important thing for me to be sure that the choice I was making for my career was a proper choice. It happened to be that I had a friend that actually worked in that same clinic, and this person had recommended me to the person that was going to hire the next pharmacy clerk. So I kind of got lucky in that way. I applied along with everyone else. But I think once they realized that I was going pre-med, that they felt like, oh, this is someone that's vested in healthcare, and that's probably why they chose me for the position.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
So, hi, Claudia. Can you please share with us, how did you deal with being discouraged, and how do you overcome these humps?
Yeah, I actually love that question because in recruiting, specifically within my career, it's so easy to get discouraged when you have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month sometimes, right? So I've been in those humps very often. And somebody told me when I first came in to just remember that my career is very important, and obviously I put a lot of emphasis into it, but it's not everything, right? So I make sure to surround myself with people who are positive within my life and who will help me get out of those humps, but also make sure that I have other goals in life outside of my career, right? Make sure that I have other things that I'm striving for outside of just recruiting and what I'm doing in my career that will kind of keep me up and keep me encouraged outside of work when work is not keeping me encouraged, and vice versa, right? But you need those positive mentors, those positive friends, especially at work, right? When you're feeling down and you said, oh, I had a terrible week, you need that person that you go to that you can vent to and is going to feel that pain, right? But is also going to be like, I get it, but you're going to be okay. We've all had these humps, and get through that with you, and someone to support you in that way.
Thank you. Melanie, this next question is for you. How has being a woman played a part in the field that you're in? Just a little bit about how that identity shows up.
Very fun. I am the only female. My last few positions, I've been the only female, especially tech-related female, in positions, so both with software and coming into cybersecurity. And so it's been fun. I like to stay as optimistic as possible. It definitely has its challenges. There are definitely times where someone comes in and thinks, oh, you're the receptionist, or oh, you're marketing, or oh, you're sales, which is fine. If you want me to jump on some phones, I'll jump on some phones, that's fine. But it can be a little challenging. Overall, I found it very helpful here in recent years. So as women are seen more in the industry, and as we're able to show we have more to add, we have a different point of view, and we're in meetings, or if you're in a board of directors meeting, knowing that someone might actually want you there. They want a different perspective, and they want a different point of view on things. They need someone to call a customer. They need someone to explain it differently in different terms to somebody. And we do have a different mind for that. I've found than some of my peers before that just are very black and white. We can be a little on the edges. We can be a little bit more flowery, a little softer with it, and it can be received a lot differently. Definitely in escalations. So I've been a part of a few incident response where they're going to yell their faces off at a network engineer, but they're not going to yell at me. And so I'm the one that gets to call them and explain situations. So there are certain fun parts of it, but there are also a couple drawbacks. But overall, I'm glad I'm a female in this industry, and that I can represent as well.
Thank you, Melanie. So now the next one is for Rochelle. Have you ever felt supported or mentored by anyone or not, especially women in the field? And if you have found a mentor, how did you go about finding one?
So I'll have to give you a little bit more background. I was active duty military in the Air Force for 22 years. So I was in an organization that only has 15 to 20% women in general, including even in the medical field. There's still only 15 to 20% women. So I will be the first to admit that actually all of my mentors and sponsors have been men, because there wasn't anyone high up there as a woman that I could look up to ask to be my mentor. And eventually, as I continued active duty time, I was the more senior person. I became the most senior person. So for me, what happened was I had my male mentors and sponsors, but during the last half of my career, I felt that our women in the military were suffering from lack of mentorship. And so what I did was I created a women in medicine group to provide mentorship for the young female physicians who really didn't have anyone to look up to. And I really tried to change the culture at our teaching hospital when it comes to having a more senior female mentor. And so I tried to recruit as many senior female physicians to be part of my group so that we could mentor the younger female physicians in our organization.
That sounds great, Rochelle, that you took the initiative for other female physicians. The next question is for Edna Lynn. So what's the best advice you've received from someone?
So this is the best advice I've received from someone, and also I provide it to a lot of my junior developers even to this day, is to stay technical. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty in code. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty in designing some hardware and putting that together, because it'll provide you with a great foundation for your career moving forward. With that also, like, don't be afraid to insert yourself in different situations, regardless of your role or position at the time. If you firmly believe that you can add value in a specific area or place, even if it's as small as writing notes on a whiteboard, doing some technical interchange, those small steps will lead you into being positioned so that you can lead big trade studies or lead projects in the future. So it's those small foundational steps that set you up for your career in the long run.
Thank you. And lots of technical skills you can work on from home while we're all sheltering in place. So that's good advice for the moment, particularly. So Claudia, the next question's for you. As someone who's been, had different educational experiences and worked in kind of some different fields, how has being a woman shown up, if it has, differently in those spaces?
I mean, it's definitely been huge. When I was in higher ed, it was a lot more female dominated than it is now. I think now probably over 90% of the people that I talk to day to day are men, people that I'm recruiting. And I take a lot of notice in that because when I do talk to a woman, a female candidate or a female client, a hiring manager, I get very excited because you see that the number of females in technology continues to grow. And I think when you talk to females in technology, I always talk about what they're doing and how they're involved in, whether that's Girls in Tech group in San Diego and what they're doing to get involved in the community and help other women come into the field. I'm doing a lot of cybersecurity work now, so Melanie, it's great to see that you're there as well. So I mean, it continues to grow, and I think being a woman and talking to other women in the field, although obviously my path is a little bit more non-traditional, it definitely affects it because we have that connection, right? Of that, hey, what are you doing? How can we continue to help? How can we continue to learn from each other? Versus in higher ed, it showed up in a different way, right? I think in higher ed, being Latina showed up more than anything because there wasn't many Latinos in higher ed. So I was a lot more involved with that side of things. So I think different identities kind of show up stronger or differently depending on your situation and where you are.
Yes, definitely. And the next question goes to Melanie. So I know that you said you have been the only woman in tech in the positions that you've held. So this kind of goes in line with that. Have your male colleagues in your profession kind of advocated for diversity and more inclusive environments in your workplaces?
I have seen that, yes. It's very refreshing. When I first started in the industry, it was not that way. And it was very much a struggle to even have them kind of recognize that we need allies to advocate for us in this space. And so I think it's a larger conversation now, and it's you can see it more in different panels. If you're on LinkedIn, you can kind of follow some of the articles where, because it's a larger conversation now, they are more aware of, wow, they'll reach out and say, hey, do you need anything? Hey, I saw this article, and they want to talk about it, which is great. So I've seen them personally advocate for, even if someone maybe is slightly less qualified than a male counterpart, for example. It's like, well, I would be happy to mentor that person if we bring them onto the team. It could be that they haven't had the opportunity to get their grips in. Like someone mentioned, they haven't had the opportunity to have, to sit next to an engineer in those engineering calls or meetings where they can write things down and kind of absorb the information that way. So it's a very good mixture of education and actual work, hands-on, but having them advocate and having them include me without me having to force my way into a meeting has been nice. I don't have to force my way into meetings anymore, which is great. But you can see a challenge, but they're definitely catching on, and we definitely have more allies advocating for us than we used to.
That's exciting to hear, Melanie.
Very good.
So the next question is for you, Edelyn. We already know the work-life balance is challenging for everyone, right? Especially during this time. So can you please share with us, what has support look like outside of work, and how did you manage this? And have you ever break out of the norm?
I feel like I've broken out of the norm my entire life. Growing up, especially in a Filipino household, if you're not a nurse, doctor, or lawyer, you kind of bring dishonor to the family. And so going into a math kind of field with engineering was a little different with my family, I'll be honest. And so thinking as an engineer, I had to logically provide them with information. Here are my goals. And then eventually, I guess it's kind of, I had to fight for it a little bit, but eventually they were supportive of my decisions growing up with my career. And then luckily I have a husband who supports me in my career and being a working mom. And so that's definitely plays a huge role in growing in my career. And honestly, finding different outlets, finding the community and the camaraderie somewhere out there. So there's definitely different outlets to like SWE, the women engineering groups, women in engineering networking groups that you can find community and learn from each other. That was definitely a huge and outlet for me in terms of finding support outside of work. Even to this day, finding groups where I can kind of brainstorm and level with people and see what other people are doing in their careers and how they're dealing with different situations, and not have it be someone from my current management or functional group, and just honestly just learning from other people and finding that community and outlet is definitely huge.
Thank you. So that's a great segue. So a question for any of our panelists that came in from a student is, what are organizations either on USD's campus or in the San Diego community that you would recommend students get involved in? And then kind of goes with that question, so you can take either path. How do you go about finding a mentor, or what does mentorship look like? So whoever wants to go first.
I can chime in. I have a couple of suggestions. So there's so many associations for very different things in San Diego. We are very fortunate to live in a very, my focus is always technical, but in a very dynamic industry in San Diego. So we have access to just about everything. You know, no matter what you want to do, you can probably do it in San Diego. There are a lot of associations. For one that stands out in my mind is ISACA. It's information security, and they have specifically a student membership. So some of these memberships and associations can be a little expensive. You can just do a quick Google search on, you know, whatever the industry is and kind of add association to it. You'll probably find something. But a lot of them have student membership fees. So luckily I was just a grad student, so I'm still kind of coasting on some of those student fees, and that I don't have to pay the full professional fee yet. But there are a lot. I would also look for mentorships. So for women specifically, there's an organization called the Diana Initiative. There's also Anita B, who have specific mentorship programs. And so unfortunately, Diana Initiative was canceled with DEF CON this year, but I volunteered actually to be a student sponsor, a student mentor as well. So a lot of people just, you know, it doesn't have to be in San Diego. A lot of things are virtual now. So you can find a sponsor, find a mentor, you know, find an association that you're comfortable with, and you'll usually be able to start kind of reaching out and kind of poke around and see what other volunteers are willing to do and help you out with.
Add to that. I think when I was graduating both undergrad and grad school and thinking about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, LinkedIn was my best friend. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, I highly recommend making one. And it might sound a little intimidating and a little weird, but I would literally just look for people in my area or the area that I wanted to be in that had a profession in the career that I wanted, or a role that I was interested in, or worked at a company that I was interested in learning more about. And I would literally just connect with them, send them a message and say, hey, if you're open to an informal interview, an informal conversation to learn more about what you do and you know, what you're doing and how you got to where you are, I would love to learn more. I'm a recent grad, or, you know, I'm interested in going into your field. And you'd be surprised at how many people are open to having a 10-minute conversation and where it can go from there. And typically I would always say, like, you know, give me 3 good to connect with. So it kind of just spiral on from there.
Thank you. Edna and Rochelle, anything to add to organizations or mentorship?
Well, I think it depends on what your profession is, because you will eventually figure out which organizations are tied to your specialty or your profession. I think one of the big things I've always tried to tell those who are interested in my field is to definitely volunteer, or if you can get that great part-time job in the field, to really just get some exposure to be sure that you're making the right decision, and that you feel comfortable in the environment that you're going to be in the future if you so choose to go down that road.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with the Society of Women Engineering since I was in college, which is definitely a great community there. But the great thing about USD that I realized was that because it is a smaller kind of college and the classrooms are smaller, I found mentorship during college from my professors and my peers. Got to know what everyone, not everyone, but like some close peers were doing, where their minds were at the same time learning from the professors. They see a lot of people go in and out of the classrooms, and the engineering field is a little small. It's a huge field, but in San Diego, someone knows someone in engineering, and someone. I found my old boss went to USD, and we vibed with the same professor and was kind of reminiscing from that. But anyways, learning from professors, going into office hours, being transparent with them, saying, hey, I get this, I find interest in this area, I don't understand this, and asking questions about their experience and where can I take my career, here's what I'm thinking right now, do you think it aligns with what I'm currently interested in? Just having that open and honest conversation with your professors was definitely a good outlet in terms of mentorship for me.
Thank you all. So a question that came in for Rochelle, so I'll throw it to you first, but then anyone is welcome to answer, and I apologize if you can hear my daughter in the background. What is the biggest obstacle that you've overcome in your profession, and how did you go about overcoming that obstacle?
Well, for physicians, residency training is the hardest, which is what you do after you graduate from medical school. It's when you start focusing on the specialty of choice that you choose as a physician. So for me, it was internal medicine. We worked what we call greater than 80-hour work weeks when we were doing residency. And so that was quite challenging. And I honestly don't remember how I got through it without really drinking coffee. Because normally, all my friends and colleagues drink a lot of coffee, but I think I was, the stress of learning and making sure you're taking care of patients safely, that you're not going to kill your patients during residency training, was enough adrenaline for me to keep me going in that 80-hour work week. So I think that was a huge hurdle, is realizing the hours that we spent during medical school training, initial training in medical school, was not the same once you're actually on the job doing training. And that was definitely a different thing that I had to adjust to and grasp. And it certainly, without extra help or support, it's challenging to do.
Anyone else have an obstacle they want to share, or a tip for overcoming obstacles that they've learned to use over time?
I can throw one in. So an obstacle in particular, to me, I'm a very type A person, and so I'm very much of a perfectionist, and you can't really do that. And so part of it was, I want everything to be absolutely follow the plan, and that doesn't exist. I don't think in anyone's industry that everything follows the plan. Maybe more in Rochelle's, I hope. I don't know if that works that way. But
no, you can't be perfect as a physician either.
Yeah. Okay, good. But one thing that someone had kind of helped me connect the dots with that is that, things are going to go haywire every once in a while, but never take your hits and never take what you might consider a failure too hard. So especially in my industry, probably in all of our industries, there's no one person that knows everything. And so you can't be perfect. You can submit a paper that you think is an A+, it comes back as a C, and you're like, wow, I didn't even have that in my mind. I was thinking a completely different direction. And that might happen. That happens, daily sometimes too, where you just have a different thing in your mind and that's what you go with. And so don't take things too hard. You can try to be a perfectionist, but on the other side of it, remember that no one's perfect. You just keep going. And all of us need progress. All of us need progress for women, underrepresented people in our industries as well. And any movement forward is still movement. So even if you fail fail hard, fail fast, get right back up, and just keep going. It's hard sometimes, better than others, but get used to it after a while.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, so the last question from the career development staff, and then we'll throw it back to students, is what is one action step or piece of advice you would give someone who wants to enter your field?
I'll provide some advice. So advice for right now is gain experience outside of the classroom, whether that's with an internship, working for free on a specific engineering project, or working on a personal project. You'll learn more outside of the classroom, and you'll learn exactly what you like and what you don't like faster by doing projects outside of the classroom on your own time.
Yeah, mine was very similar to that. I'm very much a learn by doing person. So I think that you have to do to learn, or at least get some experience seeing it through someone else's eyes as well, and just connecting with as many people as you can, and being, out there learning what others are doing, even if it's not what you want to do. Like Anil said, you can definitely, at least what you don't want to do, versus not knowing anything, right? And I think one of the best things that I heard from a few people in my field is it's a marathon, not a sprint, meaning that, take it day by day. If today is bad, tomorrow might be better. And if tomorrow's not better, then next week might be better. It's really isn't something that's going to, end in a week or 2 weeks. Your life and your career is lifelong, right? So don't be discouraged by something that happens today, because tomorrow might be the best.
Students, feel free to type questions, but also if you have a question at this point and want to unmute yourself and answer the panelists, you're welcome to do that too. So we'll give a minute to see if anyone wants to ask their question. Sarah, I saw your video come on. Do you have a question, or you wanted us to see your smiling face?
Yeah, it's not really like a question, but it's just like going from like the college life to like working. Like, I know it's like really different, but just like, how did you guys manage that change?
It is a question. Thank you for asking.
Well, I don't know who else has kids or family in our group, but for me, I had to have a nanny to take care of my child at home, because my husband was also a physician and we both work crazy hours, and I needed someone reliable to take care of my daughter, because I would get home late at night and not always predictable what time I'd finish, working at the hospital. And so without that, I wouldn't have been able to do my job and feel comfortable that there was someone there that I trusted to take care of my family when I'm not there. So for me, that was an important thing in my career, for me to be able to do what I needed to do.
Initially, when transitioning from college straight into my working professional career was it was definitely a change and adjustment. But the thing that stood out the most was not having that immediate community and outlet available for me personally, because in college there are so many events and activities out there, right? Here's this event, here's this tutoring group, you can I don't know, there's different outlets in college readily available. When I entered my career, my first big girl job, that wasn't easily available. And so oftentimes I did feel alone, and trying to figure out how do I adjust and work in my career, and still continue to personally grow in my career. And so that was definitely a little bit of a challenge when I first entered the field, the working field. But like I said earlier, I found community through, there's other networking groups out there that's still available, not as easily accessible, that you kind of have to pay some bigger fees, like Melanie said, but that's still available for working professionals. At the same time, I was kind of lucky to work in a more mature, bigger company with Lockheed, and so they also had diversity and inclusion groups available, where I can volunteer and kind of take part in that community and just learn from other engineers in the field. So I had to kind of go out there and look for that kind of outlet to be a part of when I started my career.
So I had a little bit of a weird transition, because I went straight from undergrad to grad school, and I worked throughout grad school. So I went from like my senior year, I think I took like 3 classes, and I worked as well, but not, it was part-time work, to going to grad school full-time. And I had a 20-hour work job, but it was closer to 30 hours, and I had an internship, so I was working about 40 to 50 hours and going to school at night. So it was very overwhelming, and I had to learn how to just balance my schedule really well. So when I went to my first full-time role out here in, I was literally going into the office like, I did this in grad school, I can do it for my first role, because I wanted to put everything I had into it, right? And I wanted to really work hard. And that's why I say, you know, it's important to have things outside of work. And being new to San Diego and not being at a big company and, you know, not knowing many people, I had the same problem as Enelon when I didn't really have that community, right? Like I didn't have clubs or organizations that I could join like easily through school. So it took me about 4 or 5 months to realize that I was going to get burnt out if I kept working how I was working. And I really needed to find other things outside of work and in the community outside of work that helped me do that. And I did that by joining like different like club, like athletic leagues in San Diego randomly, and just, you know, meeting people through there and meeting people through work as well. So it took me a little bit to figure out that transition and really feel comfortable and understand that I needed other things outside of work and how to organize my life and my time better. But I think the people around me also helped me realize that, of like, how do you need to slow down?
Perfect. Thank you for those answers. I think they're really helpful for our students, definitely. So two more questions came in from students that we'll end with. The first one would be, does anyone have advice for a STEM major, specifically chem, but a STEM major that they might be unsure what they want to do for a career? And this is open to anyone. It can be STEM related.
I'll throw an answer out there while the panelists think about it. I think, you know, someone had talked about earlier, I think it was Claudia, who did some informational interviews. So just talking to people, whether that be recent graduates, whether that be your faculty members, whether that be people in careers that you're like, wow, I didn't know that you could do that. I'm sure some of our panelists today would be willing to chat with you if you wanted to know more in depth about what they do. We have a USD platform called Team, which has 3,000 USD alum on there who said that they want to engage in career conversations and mentor students. So you could hop on there and find someone. But I think sometimes it's that trial and error of figuring out what you don't want to do that then helps you find out what you maybe do want to do.
I may add to that as well. It might not be the answer you're looking for, but also be open to other opportunities that are not necessarily directly related to your degree. So for example, when I first started my undergrad, what feels like a lifetime ago, I was philosophy pre-law, and I was going to be a Supreme Court justice. And I ended up discovering that's really hard, and PR was more fun. And so I have a bachelor's degree that has nothing to do with cybersecurity. And then it's like, well, I started working in software, and I started my master's in criminal justice because I got into the FBI Special Agent Selection Program. Really cool. I want to be an FBI agent. I took a class in that program for cybersecurity, completely fell in love with cybersecurity, changed the direction of my life. And so I would just be open, take more classes if it's something you're relatively interested in. I know a guy who has a degree in zoology, who's the VP of HR at a nonprofit organization. Absolutely nothing to do with his degree, but he found an industry he fell in love with. He found an organization that just set him on fire. And having the degree is great. It shows that you have, stability and that you can stick your mind to it, complete something. But definitely be open to something that you may not have thought about before.
Thank you, Melanie. Rochelle, Edna, Claudia, do you have any kind of advice for this specific student or any STEM student?
No, I would just say that I agree with the concept of you have to live your life how you feel best, and don't feel pressured to always do one thing. So I've seen physicians who have left the career of medicine, one, because of burnout, in all honesty, but two, because they couldn't find the passion that they had maybe originally when they first started off. So I always tell younger physicians that follow your passion. If it ends up leaving medicine, then it ends up leaving medicine. Do what's passionate, because life is short, to be all honest, and we have to be able to enjoy life and enjoy the experience of life. And when you're sometimes too focused with your career, you can be a little bit, have blinders on, and you don't realize, oh, there's this other thing I really, really want to do. I just never had time for it. And then you're too old by the time you realize that you want to do it. So take it from me, I'm probably the oldest person on the panel, is my guess. I've been practicing medicine for a long time. It took a long time to finish and get my medical degree. But I will say, I actually work half-time now. I worked full-time as an active duty physician for over 22 years. And then I decided after I left that and retired from the military that I was going to work part-time. And I'm so glad I did, because I have a teenage daughter now, and I'm spending more time with her than I ever did during my active duty career. And I'm getting to know her before she leaves to go to college, right? That's when she disappears from my life, and I maybe get a phone call or a text from her once in a blue moon. But if I didn't do that, if I didn't go part-time, I wouldn't have these experiences I've had with her during these COVID quarantines that we've been dealing with. So I'm going to enjoy those memories, and then I might go back full-time, or I might not. Maybe I'll go learn how to cook, do something I totally have not had time for in my whole life. I want to enjoy life for what it is. And I love my profession, don't get me wrong, but I want to learn some other stuff as well. That's my advice.
I definitely agree with Rochelle with that. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Just kind of think of things with your whole life, that everything is a learning experience, that you grow with the times and with the specific season that you're in. Right out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to be a software engineer, take that, learn what I can with that, and then go from there. I went into project engineering, found that I wasn't really too tuned with the hardware side of things. I wanted to go back to software. And now I'm managing a group of software engineers. So your career, and I would have never expected that I wanted to do that right out of college. So it's okay to recalibrate and readjust along the way. And kind of like what Rochelle says, I'm currently a new mom. So I'm in the season of teaching a little human being on how to learn and grow, and it's just a different season in life. And so I'm happy where I am in my career right now. I honestly still want to grow, definitely in my career, but right now in this current season I'm in, my focus is in raising this little baby. And so things will change, life will have these twists and turns, and you just kind of, like what Rochelle said, just be present in that moment and just go with it.
Thank you so much for all of your answers to, that was actually our last question. We're gonna start wrapping it up right now. And Annie Sela can take it away with our last thoughts.
Thank you again, everyone. I was really excited about this event as the first time that we host something like this. So I think I'm even more excited to have something similar in the future. Thank you for all of our students for asking those amazing questions. Just wanted to share some information with you. The Career Development Center is still open virtually for you, so feel free to schedule an appointment with us one-on-one. We have a lot of resources. Please meet with us if you need some information about LinkedIn, team, how to network, or anything related to that. And again, thank you so much for doing this today, and have an amazing Tuesday.
And thank you again to our panelists. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you so much.